Hi there, John Renge with Team Craft Roofing Restorations. This is another one of our videos in the series of airless sprayer maintenance and repair. And what we have here is a Hennes Johnson cold process mastic sprayer. This is pretty much the industry standard for applying cold process asphalt or mastic adhesive. It's got an 18 horsepower Kohler engine and a key start. You can see it's got a couple of different controls here. It's got a lift control. It either raises or lowers the intake tube so that you can put it in and out of 55-gallon drums. And it's got another lever that goes to spray, off, or auxiliary. And the auxiliary is for some of the larger setups they have where they actually have tanks with mixers in them, so you can turn the mixer on and off through the pump here. It's got like a 45-gallon, not quite 45-gallon, but it's a pretty good size hydraulic tank. This is a 4,800, 4,900 PSI pump, moves a lot of product, and it also attaches to an inline heater that we're going to be using on our next project. And what we're going to do today is we're going to be taking the pump apart and changing the packings on it so it's ready to go, because it's a pretty good sized project that we have. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to pull out a couple of cotter pins, and then we're going to put them someplace safe so we don't lose them, because it could be really annoying if you lose your cotter pins and you can't get back to work because you don't have a cotter pin. And you have to stop and go find one, and you know, you're a couple hours from nowhere, it could really ruin your day. So we're going to take these apart, and then we're going to take the pump off. This is a self-contained pump, and what I mean by that is everything's inside it. The packings for the upper packings and the piston packings, piston assembly, they're all inside. It's a direct immersion pump, that's why it's on this lift so that it can sit down here. So we're also just going to take this off. I'm going to have to use a wrench to take that off. It is mounted on these 3 retaining rods, so we're going to use a ratchet and take them off of there. We're going to disconnect this and disconnect these, and this just screws off. So we're going to start taking this apart and take a couple pictures while we're doing it, and we'll be back with you when we're ready to move to the next procedure. Okay, now we've removed the cotter pins, and this coupling here is screwed in, so we're going to loosen this nut here, and we're going to turn this around and around, and it's going to thread out of here. And that's how the pump is attached. It's 2 cotter pins and a jam nut, and you just screw that out of here and uncouple it from the hydraulic motor. And after that, we're going to loosen the wet cup, because it's easier to do when the pump is stationary. We're also going to take off the hose and the mounting for the hose and the pressure relief primer valve while it's mounted, because again, it's just a lot easier to do it when it's in one and when it's not moving around. So we're going to take this apart and take this wet cup off, and then we're going to take the foot valve off and take the pump apart. We'll be back in a little bit. Our packing kit. These are our new pieces. And not a lot to go to this one, but there are 2 sets. Something that's a little bit different with these is that they're mostly all leather packings. There's only 1 plastic packing, and there's 2 different sets. One has 5. That one goes on the upside. These are the upper packings. Those go in the pump body, and these are the lower packings, and they will go on the piston. One thing that's odd about working with a mastic pump is that you do not soak the leather packings for whatever reason. They say that it'll make it expand and harder to put together, and since you're going to be pumping asphalt with it, I guess you just don't need to put any oil in it. So this might go a little bit quicker than your average rebuild, even though the pump's a lot bigger, because you don't have to take an hour to soak the packings. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the displacement pump from the connecting rods. And sometimes you got to give these a little bit of a tap to get these bolts going, because they get torqued on pretty well. And you want to take them off a little bit at a time so that the last one doesn't end up being a real fight. Okay, we've got the displacement pump off of the connecting rods. Remember, when you take that last nut off, you have to support the pump because it's pretty heavy and you don't want it dropping and landing on your foot or breaking something. Sometimes these can be kind of difficult to get the piston out, and you'll have to turn them upside down and tap them on a piece of wood or something, or use a hammer with a piece of wood. But this one's just going to slide out with the piston and the sleeve. So we're not going to have to do anything like that on this one. It's been actually lubricated pretty well. So we're going to take that out. We're going to set the piston block aside. This is where the upper packings are, and they're in pretty good shape, but we're going to have to change them out anyway. And the way you do that is you very carefully pop them out with a pretty good sized screwdriver. And you just got to give them a little bit of a head start, and then you can just pull them right out. Be careful not to scratch anything on the inside. These pumps are very expensive and they're polished, so anything that's polished, you want to make sure you don't scratch, because it won't work right after that. So we'll pull these packings out one at a time. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's the metal gland. And we may have to pop that one out from the bottom. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 leather packings, and that's the female gland. Now this one is long as well as every other airless pump on the market. The upper packings will face with the V point up and the cup part down. That's so when the piston comes up through, material gets pushed down. The ones on the piston, the cup will always point up and the V will always point down. Now we've done a pretty good bath. We've cleaned the inside of this of the displacement pump out. We've got the rest of it soaking in here. We're missing a pin to retain the ball, so we're going to have to order that and have it shipped out here fairly quickly. And then we got a little bit of glob in here. We're going to have to dig that out with a screwdriver a little bit later. But since we don't have the pin, it's not all that urgent at the moment. We soaked the piston and sleeve in mineral spirits to clean it up, and we got that cleaned up, and now we're just going to turn it over, tap it out, and take it apart. And you know what, let's put it back in the mineral spirits and let it clean up a little bit before we take it apart. And you see, these packings really are in pretty decent shape, but we don't want to take a chance when we start a big job that we have to stop in the middle of it. So we're going to put that back in there, and I'm going to get cleaned up and get back to work. And we're going to take the piston assembly out, and we've been cleaning that out. Usually these are torqued pretty tight and you have to stick them in a vise. You can see this one's still got some asphalt inside, so we're going to probably put that back in to clean it out after we take it apart for just a little bit. But this one, for some reason, is hand tight, which really isn't a good thing, so we're going to make sure we tighten it up nice and good when we put it back together. You can see there's a check ball that comes out. This is a new check ball. It's the old packing set, and as we had told you before, you remember that the ones that go on the piston, the V part points down and the cup part points up, so that when it pulls up it squeezes against the inside of the sleeve, and that helps to that creates the pressure that pulls up. And that's our new packing set. That's going to go on there. Now make sure, see, this one has a steel shim here. You want to make sure you don't lose that because it doesn't come with the new kit. So we're going to rinse this off again. Make sure we got it nice and clean. So the cleaner it is, the better off we are when we put it back together. And we'll take our rag with a little bit of mineral spirits and we'll push it up inside there with this screwdriver and to be very careful not to damage the threads, so we want to push that in there with the rag and then turn it like this so we get as much of that old asphalt out of there as possible, so it's nice and clean. And again, this machine is pretty much only used for asphalt, so it's always going to have mineral spirits in it. It's always going to have asphalt, so it's not as aggressive as some of the other coatings that we use, and it's not as abrasive because it's basically congealed oil, more or less. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make sure we have all the pieces off of here. That is a plastic piece that goes in the packing kit, and that is the female gland. This one more quick wipe down, and this pump rebuild is going to go very quickly. Fortunately for us, it was in pretty good shape, so it's not going to take that long when these things are put away wet, put away rode hard and put away wet, so to speak. They can be really difficult to work with, and you have to really fight to get them apart. This isn't working out that way, so we're just going to slide these on here like that. Install the gland, install the shim, install the new ball, and then we're going to thread the packing set into the piston assembly. Wipe that down, and again, this wasn't really torqued much, and you want to torque it pretty good, so we're going to walk it over to the vise so that we can get a wrench on it and give it a nice tightening. And you see it's got flat areas, so you want to make sure you put it in on the flats, and we'll tighten that up, and then we're going to start putting everything back together. We'll install the upper packings and slide this into the sleeve, and that's pretty much going to be it. So we'll show you the rest of this, and hopefully this has been helpful. We're going to install our upper packings into the pump block, and again on this one, remember this is a self-contained unit, so the packings and the pump are all one piece. In some of the other machines you'll have a pump block that hangs up here and you have to slide them in, so just remember, V packings on the upper go up, on the lower they go down. So we're going to just slide this set in here, press it in place. That's pretty much all there is to that one. This one's easy to get to, so you don't have to use a punch or a wooden dowel to press them into place. Now we're going to take our sleeve out of the mineral spirits bath, and we're going to just push our rag with mineral spirits through there and clean that out a little bit, because it's still full of liquefied asphalt. And the machine was put away pretty well, so it's mostly mineral spirits, but we still want to have it nice and clean when we put it back together. And we'll clean this out just a little bit more. Dry this off. And then take a look at this. This is our schematic. We see that the piston goes in from the bottom. So we're going to take a look at this, and we can see that this is the bottom because it's got a beveled edge to meet the edge of the piston. So we're going to slide this in carefully. You don't want to scratch that piston because it's one of the more expensive pieces. So we'll just pop that in like that, and that's ready to go. So we're going to check and see where everything goes here. We've got two O-rings. One goes right here on the foot valve, and the other one's going to go right here on the cylinder. That's going to be the thin one, so we got to stretch that out. And actually, that just sits on top there. so we don't have to stretch it out. And you have to carefully guide the piston through the upper packing so they don't pop out. So that's about it. So we're just gonna turn this sideways and give it a little bit of a tap with the hammer here to get it up in place so it slides nicely in there. And so you got to be careful with the packings. So that's pretty much it, except for reinstalling the foot valve. And we're gonna put this back on here, and then we'll pretty much be done. So this is fun. We'll show you what the finished product looks like.